Thanks for coming out, right? I know a lot of us coaches reached out to you guys and just trying to, provide value to a lot of you, whether you've trained here before or you guys are brand new to the gym. This is just a cool opportunity, and this is something that we love to do. We spend a lot of time just working on our performance training, and we've revamped things a lot over the last few years, and I kind of want to bring that to light and show more people locally kind of what we're doing and to help you guys, right, develop speed. So that's kind of why we're here, right? So welcome to the gym, or we call it the house here. So this is Varsity House Gym. Wherever you guys are coming from, this is kind of our mecca. This is our one-stop shop where we train athletes, but we also do train adults. But like I said, today is just going to be more about speed training, and today is really going to just be focused on why it's important, kind of giving you guys a little bit of backside, but I don't want to sit here and bore you too much. So once you understand our ideology and why it's important no matter what sport you play, then we're going to get into a live training session, and we literally have a bunch of things mapped out for you guys. So for you guys, once I'm done, we're literally going to go through a regular training session. All coaches are going to be hands on deck. We're going to be correcting you guys. We're going to give you guys tips. I'm going to show you special exercises that we like to do to help make that happen, to help get you guys a little bit faster. But also, something that we did that's pretty cool is we're going to include a Q&A at the end. So if you guys are parents, coaches, what have you, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, seriously, this is what we do for a living, right? This is not like a part-time thing. We're in here every day working with hundreds of athletes, now about 1,000. And so if you guys really have any concerns, whether it's anything from sprint training, speed training, performance training, maybe it's just injury, or maybe it's something, maybe, something's lagging in terms of your knee hurts, your ankle, let us know, right? Let us know. So without further ado. So why speed, right? In our opinion, sprinting is the hierarchy or is the holy grail of athletic performance. And if you really think about it, sprinting is a universal sport in which getting there first matters, no matter what sport you play. Even if you play volleyball, and I'll explain in a little bit, or if you play more of a vertical-based sport, it's still super important. But when you look at sport linear from point A to point B, if you get there first, that generally matters. That's why there's a combine test in most sports. That is why speed training is such an emphasis. That is why different athletes who do well, and we're going to show you based off some performance work here, if you align here, you have a better shot of even playing college sports or high-level high school or even pro, and we'll see where that is today, right? Kind of how you stack up. So case for speed, I kind of ran a case study literally with a bunch of the athletes. Some of you guys that are here was part of that. And what that consisted of was over the span of about 12, 14 months, so a year and change, I had 457 individual athletes. That was some of our college, high school girls, that was junior kids, just at the time, whoever I was working with. So I have a wide range of athletes in terms to work with. So what we did here, the parameters, kind of how we operate here, given a year, we know that there's 4 13-week blocks, 457 male, females, so it doesn't matter, between the ages of 14 to 22. So if you give a range, that's about a novice to a pro athlete. So that could range literally from a 11 to 12-year-old all the way up to some of our NBA, NFL guys, and we have that wide range and spectrum there. That's about 16 testing periods, give or take, at the beginning. So we have a 2-week acclimation, then we test week 3. Out of 13 weeks, you have a lot of time to build, and then we test again. So there's confined parameters there. And here's what we found, right? Within that time frame, 457 athletes utilizing our structure, you improved by 8.4% holistically in your 15-yard, 20-yard sprint, but also in your stationary max approach jumps. So no matter what sport you play, no matter the power that's exerted in your sport, that was the improvement across 457 athletes. So it's probably safe to say if you step in here and you train with us for 13 weeks, you're going to improve in 8.4%. And that 8.4% was inside the 13 weeks here. And we have tabs on all of that stuff. Every time we're coaching, we have notebooks, we have papers, we track everything, obviously, just to make sure that when you step in, you trust us. We're going to make sure that you guys get better, right? And you guys get faster here. So let's just dive in just a little bit. Again, I don't want to bore you. We're science nerds here. We love the ins and outs, but this is important to understand why maybe it's start time, no matter what sport you play, to prioritize speed. So sprinting is the hierarchy of athletic development. Right? Obviously, getting stronger, getting quicker, more agile, becoming injury-proof or resilient to force on the field or court, and even in better shape. Sprinting, I know it's kind of hard to see here, is the only exercise that requires 100% of your motor units. So here's what that means. If you could deadlift, let's say 1,000 pounds, right? I don't think anybody in here could deadlift 1,000 pounds. but you are still not even touching the amount of force motor units that you generate when you sprint 15 to 20 meters. And here's why. Per stride, you generate 5 times the amount of your body weight regardless of weight once you reach that speed. So if I was to have you guys come up to the line, which we'll do, and you're just right here, and you start sprinting, once you reach literally like 15 to 20 meters, you're generating that much force. So talk about just getting stronger. We'll talk about faster, injury-proof, and in better shape, but we'll just start from the top. So if I come here, sprinting equals force, right? I mean, there's no way around it. Like I just said, let's say you have a 200-pound male, he steps on the ground within those distances. What's 5 times 200, right? That's almost half a ton per stride. Another stride, that's 2 ton. And then it starts to build from there. So we prioritize that, given that it's 100% of your motor units, given that you're going to get that much stronger. If I said, hey, look, you're going to come in here, let's get you lifting weights, let's try to improve your strength. Well, yes, that's important, but it kind of falls underneath sprinting, right? Does that make sense, right? I have to get faster. I'll improve my strength no matter the advanced level, novice to pro, and then we'll go from there. Force equals mass, kind of that's what I just said, right? So you have your body weight times velocity, how fast you move. I mean, nothing in the weight room moves at 0.10 meters per second. That's what some of you guys will get up to probably today within 10 meters. And then you have mass-specific force. So this is just a little nerdy thing, but think about muscle strength and even muscle slack, meaning in the weight room, if I was to have any of you guys lift, you guys probably know, right? I don't think anybody here has not lifted weights. You have to brace your abs tight. You have to keep your spine stable. You have to make sure that everything in your body, you hear your coach, stay tight, right? Brace as you lift. But when you sprint, when you jump, none of those things matter because your body is moving in so many different directions, right? You need to be mobile. You need to have good hip mobility. And you'll see some of the drills today. I guarantee some of you guys will have trouble with that. And even when we sprint and jump, you know how you can will yourself to get stronger? Who's ever done a heavy lift before? You guys better raise your hand right now, right? Ladies, maybe, maybe not. But you know how if you want and you're standing there and you're trying to generate as much force as you can and in your mind you're like pulling, if you try to replicate that here while you sprint, it doesn't work, right? You're actually slower. You can't will yourself to get faster. You have to be relaxed. And we'll teach some of those drills here with our coaches. Like I mentioned before, no exercise in the world generates 5 times your body weight regardless of training age with every stride. That's strength, no? Right? Some of you guys who are super strong, we'll see it today. So, like I mentioned, during the acceleration phase, which is 10, 15 meters, that's where you're getting a lot stronger. So no matter, again, I always relate it to, doesn't matter what sport. You know, if I had a tennis player, a volleyball player, I work a lot with basketball players, football players, but you guys have to get faster. So moving on, so that's strength, right? If you thought about it, strength. And then the next one, right? Brain training or agile, right? You hear the term agility, you hear cutting, change of direction, and we do a lot of fun drills like that here, but it all stems from, again, the hierarchy of speed. Sprinting is a hindbrain activity. Think about it, 100% of your motor units. Well, where does everything come from? The brain. So what does that mean? You are utilizing literally the most intent you possibly can when you sprint or jump. And I use this analogy, which is pretty cool, right? Obviously that's Odell, but think about if you operate at really high speeds. So if you're operating as fast as you can, that's super fast. I guarantee you everybody here could run 15 to 18 miles per hour. Nothing in the weight room you're moving that fast, right? In terms of total force and motor unit. So everything that happens in proximity or close to you seems a little bit slower. You ever hear of the term, the game slows down? Right? The game slows down is literally you, because you're used to sprinting so fast and so far that when the game really starts to slow down, that's because those athletes are able to reach that top speed. So think about this, right? I use football because I know guys, but ladies, this for you too. Think about if you're making a route, right? So you cut on a route and you're getting a pass thrown to you. In comparison to catching a ball here that seems so quick, that's so much slower than running 22 to 24 miles per hour straight line. Does that make sense? Right? If I'm running that fast and my brain can process information that fast, right? Like I'm driving in a car and everything's moving so fast, how easy is it to accept the serve? How easy is it to make a play? How easy is it to catch a ball in comparison to that top speed? So your brain is the most engaged at developing high speeds, and you're developing the most neurological intent far beyond what you could in the weight room, right? Far beyond what you could do in the weight room. So next, so that's number 2. Number 3, so sprinting equals bulletproofing the body. So research has shown, does anybody know what an EMG is? Have you ever heard of that? A muscle activation. It's like literally like a patch sometimes, and it can just read. So if you were to do a bicep curl, there's a patch on your arm, and when you curl, it could tell you how many motor units you're recruiting or what muscular fibers you're recruiting. So research has shown that sprinting, again, is the only exercise that recruits the entire posterior chain. All that means, basically from here to upper back, to lower back, to your hips, to hamstrings, calves, your Achilles, and even your heel, it's the only exercise that engages everything. So you know how you go to PT because your knee hurts. You go to PT because your hamstring hurts. Or if you came in here and I said, hey, what's bothering you today? And you're like, oh, my hamstring's hurting me a little bit. I could show you exercises. We could show you exercises, but no exercise is gonna make you as resilient to your sport as sprinting, right? Because think about it, now let's add it all up. Now I'm running as fast as I can. I'm getting as strong as I possibly can. Now I'm experiencing the most force as I possibly can. So as a byproduct of that, my body is resilient to anything else, right? Nobody in here probably deadlifts over 600-700 pounds. And if you do, I want to see it when we're done. But if I'm deadlifting, even that ton, right, or that weight, not ton, is 600 pounds, that still doesn't even come close to that. So yes, you could lift. Yes, you'll become resilient to injury, but your sport is not in a fixed pattern, right? I'm changing direction. I'm running top speed. I'm experiencing all these different things here. So that is why, again, sprinting now can be a little bit injury proof, if you will. So that's number 3. Moving on, sprinting equals more condition. And you'd think, well, how's that possible? So something called the speed reserve. I use NASCAR as an example, but does anybody like NASCAR in here? Maybe, maybe not. I know you guys do. All right. You like NASCAR? All right. So a NASCAR engine is meant to handle speeds 250 miles per hour, 245 miles per hour. But think about it. In a race, if they have 50 laps or whatever, 500 laps, right, on some of the events, they're not going 245 miles per hour. They're going what, 150, 160 miles an hour? Because you can sustain that. That is called your game speed, right? That is your game speed. In a game or in your sport, whether it's jumping or sprinting, you are never sprinting as fast as you possibly can or jumping as high as you possibly can. And if you do, it probably happens like intermittently, maybe 1 every 10 games. And I mean like, you're going up for a dunk or you're going up for a serve and you're literally generating as much force as you can, as if I was to test you, or when you guys line up here, we were to test you as well, right? Does that make sense? So since that's the key, and since our game speed is submaximal or not as high, right, as that top speed, we work here on developing that top speed so that your game speed, and I kind of wrote it here, is higher, right, than other competitors. Think about it. If one guy deadlifts 500 pounds, or lady, and another person deadlifts 300 pounds, who's going to be able to rep out 200 pounds for more reps? Nobody? That's fine. That's all right. We got to wake up a little bit. 500, right? The person who's 500, because their absolute ceiling is higher. And that's just common sense almost. But when you think about it in terms of sprinting, that's the key. So getting you there is a whole different story. So that's kind of the 4 main reasons why I think, we believe that sprinting is so important. But here's the deal, right? So we get it, all right? So we know speed's awesome. The problem is most coaches, fitness professionals, and trainers don't know how to sprint, right? Are trained for speed. That's like me having you guys come in. Be like, all right, guys, hey, thanks so much for coming to the strength training clinic for youth athletes. I'm going to throw 3 plates on the bar and let's just get to work. It's like, no, there's a process for that, right? I warm up. I warm up with the bar. I do a working weight. I kind of build from there, and then we'll get into that. And you guys know that all the time, right? Imagine if I said, so some of these guys train with me, but imagine I said, hey guys, we're gonna come in. Yeah, you're max 275, it's on the bar right now. You ready? It's like, no, of course not. But that happens sometimes. Hey, come on, we're just gonna get tempo runs down and back. You're gonna do some butt kicks, high knees, and we're gonna sprint, right? And you're putting it yourself. Now that we know all of that information, right? Because it's our job to educate you. Now that you know all that information, you're like, wait, I could actually get pretty hurt here if I haven't warmed up and I'm going to sprint as fast as I can. So real quick, and then we'll get rolling here. We're just going to kind of talk about what speed training is not, and then how you can implement it, right? If you're a coach, parent, even if you're an athlete, just think about yourself. You're like, hey, I want to get faster. I want to do something, right? These are kind of some quick and easy tools that you guys can apply. Running is not sprinting, right? So if even we talked about sub-max, even in a game, you're running. You're not truly sprinting. Sprinting is generating as much speed and neurological intent as possible, not jumping sub-max or getting out on a fast break or even running a route, unless you're running at max speed, right, and someone's just throwing a Hail Mary down to you. But again, then it goes back to maybe once every 5-10 games. So running does not improve sprinting, obviously, right, via the speed reserve. And then I kind of touched upon some of these. Strength training alone will not improve speed. To an extent it will, but what are you going to keep doing? Just pushing the envelope a little bit? So you come in, I'm like, okay, you need to get stronger. You deadlift 100 pounds. You come in, okay, you need to get stronger. You deadlift 200 pounds, 300, 400, 500. In order to improve your sprinting, now with the information that you know, which area or which department, if you will, would my time best be spent? If I know I can deadlift 400, 500 pounds, is deadlifting 600, 700 pounds going to help that much more? No, I'm probably going to increase my chances of getting hurt, so you need to sprint. Racehorses are not workhorses, and this is a big one, right? If you're a football player, who runs gassers here, right? Or suicides, or who does a lot of conditioning. Even ladies, I know you guys do a lot of conditioning. If you develop that capacity to operate at sub-max speeds all the time, with the information you know, what are you missing out on, right? That top speed. You're missing out on the most important thing. And then we said this a bunch of times, right? If you leave here, this is probably what you'll say to yourself, or you just hear my voice in your head. Sprinting is the most explosive exercise in the world. And then something that we kind of joke around as trainers, but I had to throw it in there, is any coach can make you tired, but can any coach actually make you better, right? Can any coach actually make you better? So now that we know this, okay, so if you're going through here and you're like, I actually do that, or I might do that, right? So what does speed training actually look like? So I'll break it down quick, and then we'll get rolling. So I kind of consolidated this a little bit. This is not me saying this, but this is just based off what I've seen, a lot of readings and other coaches before us who've kind of paved the way, and we've kind of manipulated things a little bit. The 3 rules of speed. Slow to fast, that just means how fast you start sprinting. Think about it, right, when I talked about getting hurt. So that means maybe we're going to operate today 50% to 75% for the first 2 weeks. Once we do that and we move on, we're going to go 75, maybe 100%. And then we slowly, over time, get you acclimated to that. Think about the weight room analogy of warming up with the bar, 135, 225, and then we make our way there, right? No one got strong overnight. No one's going to get fast overnight. Next is soft to hard. This surface that you're sitting on right now and you feel with your feet is a soft surface. But if you're on a court, it's way different. If you were to train here, and then you go to, let's say you train here, and you never went to a hardwood surface, when you transition to a hardwood surface, and I had this problem when I trained, you actually feel it a little bit more because there's less give, right? So my joints, my tendons, my muscle, the sheer force is harder, therefore it's more stressful. So that's part 1, and this kind of has a subpart. Part 2, which is soft to hard, that's just your impact. So meaning, and you'll see today, we're going to do a lot of falling starts. If I'm here on the line and I take off and I start punching the ground and generating force, that's a lot of tension. That's a lot of sheer force on my body. So we like to implement a lot of falling starts that help alleviate that, right? Because again, as our job as coaches and professionals is to make sure that you guys stay healthy. We always say, right, what's the number 1 asset you have as an athlete? Does anybody know? Well, availability, right? You could be the most freaky weight room athlete, the best dude, but if you're always hurt, or ladies, if you're always hurt, right, doesn't even matter. Bless you. Short to long, that's just distances, right? That's just distances. So like we talked about, I might, like today, we're only going to go to 15 yards, which is really small. But I might start with, and you guys know this, right, and some ladies who train here, we started 10 weeks ago, 5 yards, 10 yards, that was it. Then over time, we increased the distance a little bit. Now we're doing like 15 and 20 yards, and we're really trying to reach that top end here, right? So if you were to think about it, those are the 3 rules that it's important to abide by. Moving on, and then we will get going. The 3 P's of speed. So those are the rules that we kind of adhere to, and then these are the 3 P's of speed. So we have posture, pattern, and push. Again, no matter what sport you play or even what activity you do, even as just like a general person who likes to work out, these are super important. So posture just refers to the body's ability to maintain position during movement, and we know that. It's common sense. If I was to see somebody walking like this, they have poor posture. If I was to see someone pick something off the ground like this, they have poor posture. But that's super important. It takes a lot of strength to maintain that, especially moving 15 to 22 miles an hour. Number 2 is pattern. So Coach Jake is going to show you guys a lot of different drills today that might be a little different, might be kind of wonky, might be right out of your element, but that's okay, right? That's why we're here, just kind of building in that stuff a little bit, understanding how to move a little bit. So that's your pattern. The last thing, pretty obvious, is push, right? And push just means pushing the ground or letting my body, right, hit the ground with every stride. So we're going to work on these 3 things today. And then for the last thing, right, oops, that's for later. But just application and implementation, you guys don't need to know about this. We're going to show you today kind of what a typical training session would look like and things that we can help clean up with you guys. But most importantly, think about if you were to walk away with anything today, right? If I could clean up, or if our coaches could clean up one particular thing that would prevent you from injury, is that not a win? Right? That's just one thing. Can we get you faster in one session? Maybe, because we clean up little things. But I could help give you guys tools that you might be able to take with you so that you know when you move down the road, you're like, whoa, that used to hurt when I did that. Now it doesn't hurt so much. So lastly, what we'll do really quickly is this chart is kind of what I was talking about. So this chart is just based off of those 457 athletes, novice to pro. And we have our minimums, averages, and our bests. We are going to sprint. And then you guys can kind of see where you guys stack up amongst literally college, professionals, high schools, and other youth athletes, male and female.